That's better. Okay, so we're changing up tacks a little bit. We're moving away from the weddings just for a minute to talk about families. So you have just started a family, what have you called it? It's not a newsletter, but what have you called it? A family rundown, which is basically you sharing advice and tips and maybe giving some insights into family stuff. And I remember in the first email, you kind of asked a question at the end, which was, if you have any questions, write back to me and let me know what you're thinking. Yeah. So what were some of the questions that you were getting back? And we can chat through.
Some of the biggest things that seemed to be the common thing, like whether it was on stories, whether it was in that specific rundown newsletter style email, it was, what would I even wear to a photo one? And even just people saying, well, what kind of session suits me and my family? Because I think it's such a big decision. Like, budget's another one. That's probably a third topic. But it's such a big decision to decide to go and get your photos taken with all the, like, working out the timings that's going to suit your whole family, working out a day, potentially working out weather, yes, working out what to wear. Like, there's so many things. And I think my common theme, as I read everything, I was like, oh, that feels like a lot of stress that people like have to consider when it comes to, hey, book a family session. So I think it would be really nice to just go, like, I'm here to take a lot of that stress out. And I think that is, yes, the different styles of shoots that you can do as a family, but more importantly than that, like picking the right one that's going to suit you and your family, not because it looks good, but actually because you know your little people well.
Well, yeah, because every family has their own different things that they like doing. So some kids just like being outside, and that's all they want to do.
We have some of those.
We have some of those. So it would be going outside, or even like, oh, I just love baking with the kids, or I just love, you know, it's, I suppose we talk about kids. Some people might only have a little newborn, and that's different as well. Some kids need warming up. Some kids are too nervous and a bit shy, and they need 10, 15 minutes just to warm up. Some kids will be hugging you as soon as you meet them. And some dip. Some will have these amazing explosive energy, and then they dip 20 minutes later, and like ours. And I suppose navigating your own kid and also your personality too, because sometimes you might go, oh, the kids love baking, but I find it the most stressful thing in the world. You know, that's I'd rather, yeah. So knowing your kids and knowing yourself and your spouse as well, because some dads would feel more self-conscious about these sorts of things. So it's knowing their comfortability with things too. Would that be fair to say?
That's very fair to say. I think it's funny because over the years, obviously, like maybe being emailing a mum and organizing a session, and she says, oh, maybe it'll be more focused on the kids, like I might jump in one or two, but dad's going to be there anyway. And I always think, haha, if he's there, I'm going to make sure that I get him in some photos.
Absolutely.
Because there are hundreds of articles online for a reason that just say, like, your kids do not care what you look like. They don't care what you're wearing. They are just going to, in years to come, like, just love getting to look back on photos of them with their mum and dad or whoever they're with, their carer, their grandparents. They're gonna so want to see the memories from that season of life. And from my point of view, I'm just like, get in, get involved. It doesn't have to be a sitting on your sofa smiling back at me. Whether we're indoors or outdoors, it's so much more about just that connection. And kind of like, I know we're not talking about weddings, but it's the same thing. Like, I want to come in and just go, let's take some snapshots of this season of your life, because even within the next year, everybody's going to look different. Like, what you're wearing, maybe how your home's decorated,
your
or
hairstyles,
the season that it is outside, it's going to change. And like, we are all so nostalgic when we just look back at a photo and go, oh, look at them, like, look at that tooth missing. Like, there's so many things that is going to transport you back to that moment in time. So people worry about when is the right time to do like family sessions, and I would just be like, honestly, if you have the time and you have the money, it's so important to just go, let's just book a date, go after it, because a year later, it could be another good time to do it again.
Yeah, I think now is always the best time to do it, no matter who you pick. Obviously, it's going to sound very biased, us saying book family photographers. It could be anyone, but you struck me when you were talking like the whole dad thing, because I wouldn't necessarily say that I feel comfortable in front of a camera, especially when it's another photographer that's doing it. But I'm not really doing it for me, because at the end of the day, I don't have to even look at the photos. I very really felt self-conscious, and I thought, I look terrible in photos. I never have to look at them, so it's fine. Even if they're printed, just not look. But it's not really about me. I'll just do that. It's not about me. It's about the kids, and actually it's about you. It's about seeing me now as I am, because it's always good. We don't want to talk about bad things that happen in life, but bad things happen in life, and that we've learned that from weddings, and we see that people move on and things like that. That's what happens. It's normal. So capturing those, it sounds so cheesy, capturing those moments really is doing that, because things change very quickly, and it's super important. And it doesn't have to be hard, it doesn't have to be long, it doesn't have to be arduous, they don't have to look perfect. No kids do look 100% perfect, and I think that your photos show that, because you're the family photo queen. I don't do that sort of stuff as much. So, but the kids aren't necessarily prim and proper and all matching and very clean. Everything's perfect, and I think that sometimes puts the extra pressure on parents when they feel like they have to maybe make their kids look like that. Maybe social media and things like that kind of gives a bit more of that sort of facade that you have to make everyone look perfect. Would that be fair?
Well, I feel like, okay, so you've touched on it. You've talked about the what to wear. And again, I mean, we will talk about this, whether it's a couple getting an engagement session, or whether it's a family choosing to get their family photos taken. My biggest advice is you do you, and not in that kind of like the ways of the world, like nowadays saying you do you. I mean it in the sense of like, I personally do not like dressing up. I don't like being in like fancy clothes. I don't necessarily feel most comfortable like that. I am a jeans and a t-shirt kind of gal. So when it comes to getting our photos taken, I already know in hindsight that I think there's been times where I have specifically gone after an outfit that felt like, oh, this is a bit more put together for a shoot. But then I look back and go, I didn't even like what I chose, but I did it because I thought it was the right thing. So I think, me personally, I would rather look at myself in my everyday wear, like literally jeans and a t-shirt. I feel most comfortable in it. You're very similar. If you were in anything different, I'd be like, that's not you.
True.
And even with our kids, I mean, I am all for like making sure that if you can, like the colors tie in, like, I don't know, even just the idea that some families are big on color, big on print, big on pattern, that like go after that. If that's you, like own it and don't shy away from it. In the same way, if you're a neutral beige, like you love that kind of tones that's going around now, then get everybody to be wearing those kind of things. Like there is no point trying to be something that you're not, because you will only ever look back at the photos and think, oh, what was I doing? What was I thinking?
And your brain's kind of whirring in a different way. Like you can tell when there is stress in photos, because it's something you can't even, it's almost like it oozes out of you. You can kind of tell like, you're stressed, even though you're trying not to be. And I suppose if it's something that you're naturally inclined to do anyway, then it's not going to feel stressful. Whereas if you feel like we're getting our photos taken, so I have to make it match it, I have to make it that, you've given yourself way more stress than you needed to in the first place.
Oh yeah, you'll be like panicking 4 days leading up to it, like, have I got all the outfits? So I mean, but you even said about it doesn't have to be matching, but there's plenty of times where families have done it really well. Like everybody does coordinate. Like,
well, you coordinated the girls for the last one, because they both like being in dresses and they both like their crinkly hair and things like that. So
for sure. And I think it's just, there's different seasons, different ways that you can do it. But if someone said, hey, what should I wear to my shoot? I would say, what do you love wearing? What are your kids going to be most comfortable in? And I think you even touched on it there. Like the idea that just in the middle of the shoot, this is maybe going away from what you're wearing, but in the middle of a shoot where you're watching your kid and you're thinking, oh no, like they're running off in that direction. Like as a mum, I fully know that when it's my kid doing it, I am like, oh, stressing, sweating, just feeling, I'm feeling this isn't how it should be. But then actually, again, if you pick your photographer, if you pick a photographer who's like, don't worry, I got this. And that's where I will always say other people's kids, like when they're in front of me in a camera, it's 10 times easier than if it was me photographing my own kids. Like someone else's kids.
We tend to tolerate other kids.
Yeah.
It's more than our own.
It's like the classic thing on an airplane. Like you hear a baby crying and it's not yours. You either go, oh, I feel so sorry, like that they're having to go through that. Or you don't even register that they're crying because you're just like your brain has switched off going, well, it ain't my kid.
Yeah, or you just register and be like, oh, I'm so glad it's not mine. And you're just happy to move on with life.
But I think honestly, like from my point of view, when people either want to apologize for their kids during a session, my main thing is don't even have that mentality. Don't be thinking about it, because for me, I'm capturing your kid in those like in between moments. And if your kid is naturally going to like run and do loops around a tree, well, that's okay. Like again, seasons of life, like toddlers, and there's so many expectations that we try to put on kids in the middle of a photo session, when really it should be about celebrating this season of life is wild. Like they just love being tickled and they love like running after me, and actually just those big squeezy hugs. Like, let's do that. Let's do what they're going to enjoy. And I suppose that's helpful to know when you're picking the kind of session. So you said before about having a little newborn. I wouldn't always advise bring that little newborn out for an outdoor session, because it's just so much more comfortable, cozy, warm at home. You're not having to battle any kind of outdoorsy elements. So I think that I have most recently done a lot of just in their own environment, like living room, bedroom, just mum and dad at home, like those early hazy days. There's nothing quite like it. It's really nice for those like people to just enjoy seeing themselves with their little babe in arms. Like I don't necessarily do the dress your baby up or put them in specific poses. My thing is capturing, hey, when dad holds baby, how did she or he look in his arms? Like so teeny tiny, like mum, like the way that she, and everybody holds their baby differently. So I love going in and doing that. Whereas when people have generally toddlers, it often turns into a, oh, we need to get out and about. We need to go
the kid
for,
wants to get out and so does the parents.
They need it. There's a different energy. So there's so many different things that you can think about when you're choosing your session. You said it before, some kids are like 10 minutes and then they're done. And that's why these mini sessions can be so good, because you're literally turning up, we're walking, we're talking, we're stopping in a couple of little locations, wham bam, it's done. The kid literally gets to take a lolly and skip off after that thinking, did I even get my photos taken in those 15 minutes? Whereas then, you get other people who need a little bit more time, or they maybe even just locationally, sometimes they maybe live in a farm and they would rather get photos taken in their own environment. Then I would love to like go there and just take that time, like where you need a little bit of extra time to like walk around the certain areas, let the kids explore more, like capture them like playing in a pond, jumping in puddles, that you can't necessarily do all of those things in a 15-minute mini session. So lots of things to consider, lots of things like even at home stuff. If you have the kind of home where there's a big island, and you said it earlier, if you like baking with your kids, making things, I don't know, documenting that kind of stuff. We found over the years, we've kind of gone through seasons where we leave our camera downstairs and we think, okay, we don't have any recent photos of the kids. We just need to photograph in the moment, like when they're sitting at the table, when they're coloring, when they're drawing. I think there's something just really beautiful about capturing kids in their zone.
Yeah.
And not necessarily, again, it doesn't have to be everyone all together all the time. Just those little things of like mum getting the kid ready and putting on their socks, and, just things that your kid grows up and you don't do that anymore. It's lovely to have those things where you go, look at their little chubby legs when they're sitting on my knee. So I love it. I love that there's the variety of choice, and I can advise and I can guide, but only you will specifically know what's going to be the best thing for you and your family.
Would you rather, this is more, I'm thinking of
Would
what
you
a family,
rather?
Yeah, I'm thinking of what maybe a mum might say, that they might go, well, my kids are fine, they're super chill, they warm up fine, easy. Would you rather, if they say, would you advise that we do a longer shoot once, or smaller shoots, but we kind of spread them out? So we might do one every like season or something.
Yeah.
Like, what would you say to that kind of mum that might ask that?
I think in that scenario, depending, I suppose it depends on the family. Like for us, we love having lots of photos in variety. So like we would prefer to see our kids at every age and stage of life, but it doesn't have to be many of them. Like just having one of them, like even on their first day of school, or like in the summer months when they're a little bit more tanned and they've got scraped knees. So in that scenario, I would probably say go for shorter shoots, which then, especially if it's a mini session, it's usually then cheaper. But then it also means that you can go, okay, this time next year, I'm going to book in another one, or I'm going to book it in a different season within the next year. Because when your kids are going through so many changes, I don't know, there's just something, there's something in it. Like you see them from their first day of school to their last day of school. If you look at photos side by side, their little faces have changed.
Yeah, completely different.
And then even teenagers, like I love that if you're going into families who your kids are grown up, they're maybe not changing drastically, but man, the stages of life that they're going through, they really are changing. And like it's going to be that, oh, they're going to be leaving home soon, or they maybe have already left home. So any excuse for me that like a family can get together and get updated photos, I'm like, why wouldn't you? Because it's special. It's special to have.
And then what about, what would you say to mums who maybe are a bit more self-conscious about these things? Even, I mean, dads would be the same, but dads tend to be the ones that are emailing and stuff. But yeah, obviously being self-conscious in front of photos, we see that in weddings all the time, we see that in everywhere. But what about to the mums that maybe have only just had their babies, or maybe are 6 months into having their babies, or 18 months and they still not lost maybe the weight that they gained when they were pregnant, and that happens, you know, bodies change and stuff, and maybe that's their shape now. You know, how would you not navigate, but how would you help them? You know, what advice would you give them?
I mean, one of the biggest things is that like I champion people and I am a cheerleader of people. So in the moment where they are in front of me in the camera, like I just celebrate a person as they are. And I think it's that thing where I would hate anybody to be uncomfortable in those moments, just like thinking about themselves, like having that self-conscious. So I think in the moment, I want them to be able to just connect with their kid, because again, their kid is just going to go, you're my mom, I adore you as you are. And I think that it's having that feeling that when I'm having a conversation with a mom leading up to a photo shoot and they maybe have those worries, I think there's so much content online that speaks into this. But it's almost going, if you had hindsight on this season of your life, like 10 years from now, if you could talk to yourself and just go, oh, I wish that I had that photo of me either holding my baby or my 3-year-old, or even like just side by side with my 10-year-old. I think regret is so much stronger than the current emotions that we have. Plus, I think often we have the wrong lens of ourselves in a moment, so we can certainly feel a certain way. But I think that sometimes we look back and go, how did I not see that, you know, I looked pretty young back then, look at me now. Or like, I just, you know, it's huge. Like there's bigger things within this conversation about, you know, people feeling self-conscious and how someone is going to be in front of a camera. But I guess my main advice is to do it for yourself, but do it for your kids as well. Because I think the regret of not doing it is so much stronger. And I think it's just more important to have those connection moments. It's never about what you look like, but it's about how those moments feel, about just, yeah, you're their mum, you're their dad, you're their sibling, you're their people. And that's what they care about. They're going to care about those memories way more than what you look like or what you felt like you looked like in those times.
So basically own it.
Own it, yeah. And I suppose that's it. Like I want to say, oh, let it go. Oh, just accept it. And I know that it goes so much deeper than that, but definitely like just own a season and I don't know, get around the right people who champion you, who cheerlead you, who actually will just remind you of like what kind of person you actually are. Mm-hmm. I'm not this big person on looks because gosh, they change. Like everybody goes through seasons. I think you just have to absolutely accept yourself as you are, let go of the things that you cannot change in that moment, and just be amazed that you are getting to parent this little child in these moments, and just go for it.
Yeah, and know that I suppose maybe the way you've looked, or the way maybe you feel like you've changed is the result. Almost, it's the kind of the good. It's almost at the result of having children in the first place.
Yeah, that's it.
So knowing that that's kind of, yeah, it's. I can't think of the right wording for it. Not sacrifice, because that sounds a bit harsh, but just more. It's the result of having children. It's what happens. You get more wrinkles. You get because you're more tired because you're looking after kids. Like everyone changes. Everyone gets a little more different, and it's just and also thinking about thinking about the future, thinking about those things. If anyone was to lose someone, the first thing you'd be doing is trying to find every photo you can of them. And you don't care how they look. You don't care if it's blurry. You don't care what it looks like. You just care because it's them and it shows them. And if everyone got to that stage where I'm just never going to take photos of myself, I'm never going to be involved in anything, whether it's just me on my phone, just nothing, because I'm too self-conscious, it could almost be like it's almost robbing other people of finding you when they want to see photos of you, because people love people.
Yeah.
And it go both ways. If your kids, if they said, I don't want to get in front of photos because I don't look very nice, you would do everything you can to make them feel comfortable, make them feel confident. But you're also thinking, but I really want to see you, and I really want to see photos of you, and I really want to look back at photos of you. I really want to look back in 10 years and see you as a little kid running around and being crazy, because it's stressful in the moment, and you could be angry all day because they were an absolute melt. But honestly, give it a couple of days and you see the photos, give it a week, you'll love them even more as the years go on. And it's more a funny story. It turns from the angry to a funny story. The arguing in the car before you even get there because they've forgotten the shoe for the third time, it all becomes a nice story that you laugh about. Even if it's a day or two later, you laugh about it afterwards. So remember that.
I think just family's too important. It doesn't matter what your setup is, like how many kids you do or don't have. I think it's just whatever your family unit looks like. I think it's so worth celebrating. It's so worth documenting. And again, you will know your family best into what style is going to make everyone feel most comfortable. But I am there for the guidance. I'm there for the advice if you want to chat back and forth between them.
You were there for the cheerleading because you are the biggest cheerleader. So,
hype girl.
Oh, you are a hype girl, and not even like fake hype girl. Like you genuinely mean it. No, you genuinely mean it. So anyone that sits in front of a camera with you, stands in front of a camera with you, would always feel at ease and confident just based on that.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm. So is there anything you need to, I don't know, TLDR this?
Too long, didn't read. I think my thing is, I guess, yes, do your research. So I maybe have waffled about the different kind of sessions that I personally do, but I mean, there's such a range. There's such a range available in terms of time, in terms of cost, in terms of location. So just figuring out what does that look like, what all is involved, and then it just allows you to make more of an educated decision on, hey, I really think that like actually just spending a day at home with me and my family is going to suit better than going through the forest, or vice versa. It's going to be much better for us to get out and about, get it done in 15 minutes. Or if you want to add the grandparents in, you know that you're going to need more time because we're doing more variations. So I think too long, didn't read, do your educating, do what suits you best. Like I think when it comes to those clothes and what you're choosing, go after things that you love. Therefore you'll be able to look back and go, yeah, that really reminds me of my family in that season of life, how we all looked, how we all felt, and you're not going to be feeling too weird about it.
Nice.